always stress the difference between Wall Street and Main Street, but everybody seems to be in economic pain. How economically painful is it going to get for people in this country? And I do have one more question.
First of all, there's no doubt that when a major nuclear power attacks and invades another country, that the world is going to respond, and markets can respond all over the world. So there's no doubt about that, number one. Number two, the notion that this is going to last for a long time is highly unlikely as long as we continue to stay resolved in imposing the sanctions we're going to impose on Russia, period. What's the next question? I'm sorry.
The next question is, did you underestimate Putin, and would you still describe him the way that you did in the summer as a worthy adversary?
At the time, he was, I made it clear, as an adversary, and I said he was worthy. I didn't underestimate him. And I've read most of everything he's written. Did you read the, I shouldn't, I'm not being a wise guy. You heard the speech he made, almost an hour's worth of speeches, why he was going into Ukraine. He has much larger ambitions in Ukraine. He wants to, in fact, reestablish the former Soviet Union. That's what this is about. And I think that his ambitions are completely contrary to the place where the rest of the world has arrived.
And with these ambitions, you're confident that these devastating sanctions are going to be as devastating as Russian missiles and bullets and tanks?
Yes, Russian bullets, missiles, and tanks in Ukraine. Yes, I am.
Thank you, President Biden. If sanctions cannot stop President Putin, what penalty can?
I didn't say sanctions couldn't stop him.
You've been talking about the threat of these sanctions for several weeks now.
Yes, but the threat of the sanctions and imposing the sanctions and seeing the effect of the sanctions are two different things. They're two different things. And we're now he's going to begin to see the effect of the sanctions.
And what will that do? How will that change his mindset here, given he's
because
attacking
it will so
Ukraine
weaken
as we
his
speak?
country that he'll have to make a very, very difficult choices of whether to continue to move toward being a second-rate power or, in fact, respond.
You said in recent weeks that big nations cannot bluff when it comes to something like this. You recently said that the idea of personally sanctioning President Putin was on the table. Is that a step that you're prepared to take? And if not,
it's not a bluff, it's on the table.
Sanctioning President Putin?
Yes.
Why not sanction him today, sir?
Mr. President?
Why not sanction him today, sir?
Mr. President, if I can, you detailed some severe and swift new sanctions today and said the impact it will have over time. But given the full-scale invasion, given that you're not pursuing disconnecting Russia from what's called SWIFT, the international banking system, or other sanctions at your disposal, respectfully, sir, what more are you waiting for?
Specifically, with the sanctions we've imposed exceed SWIFT. The sanctions we imposed exceed anything that's ever been done. The sanctions we imposed have generated 2/3 of the world joining us. They are profound sanctions. Let's have a conversation in another month or so to see if they're working. Yes.
Can I ask you about Zelensky? Sir, you spoke to Vladimir Zelensky yesterday, sir.
What's the risk that we are watching the beginning of another Cold War, and is there now a complete rupture in U.S. and Russian relations?
There is a complete rupture right now in U.S.-Russian relations if they continue on this path that they're on. And in terms of a Cold War, that depends. You have the vast majority of the rest of the world in total opposition to what he's doing, from Asia to South America to Europe to around the world. And so it's going to be a cold day for Russia. The idea, you don't see a whole lot of people coming to his defense.
And are you, if I could follow up, sir, are you urging China to help isolate Russia? Are you urging China to help isolate Russia?
I'm not prepared to comment on that at the moment. No. Yeah. No. He's had his hand up a long time.
Thank you, Mr. President. How concerned are you that Putin wants to go beyond Ukraine into other countries, and the U.S. will have to get involved if he moves into NATO countries?
Well, if he did move into NATO countries, he will be involved. We will be involved. The only thing that I'm convinced of is if we don't stop now, he'll be emboldened. If we don't move against him now with these significant sanctions, he will be emboldened.
And-
Look, you know, well, anyway.
And can you talk anything more about your conversation? Mr. President.
Why not sanction Putin directly today?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sir, India, which is a major defense partner of the United States, is India fully with you on the issue of Ukraine and Russia?
Does the Defense Department of the United States?
Sir, India is one of your major defense partners. Is India fully in sync with the United States on Russia?
We're in consultation with India today. We haven't resolved that completely.
One more question.
Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you.
And there goes President Biden, having made a statement and taken some questions. He says that Vladimir Putin's goal is to re-establish the Soviet Union. He was asked about sanctioning Vladimir Putin personally and said it's on the table, but wouldn't respond to points from some reporters saying, why don't you do it right now? He talked about a complete rupture in relations between the US and Russia. And interestingly, he declined to comment on China's position on all of this. Let's bring in the BBC's North America editor, Sarah Smith, who's with us from the White House. Sarah, those were just a few things I picked out. I wonder what you would highlight as being the most significant aspect of that.
What you said, and also President Biden's insistence that the purpose of these sanctions is to maximize the long-term pain for Russia whilst trying to minimize any economic consequences in Russia. And this is something that we've been heard being stressed today rather than previously, when they hoped that the threat of these sanctions would act as a deterrent to Vladimir Putin. It's pretty clear that they don't think any economic pain that they can inflict on Russia will change much in the short to immediate term. But they want to try to degrade Russia's economy, its ability to produce and use technology, its military technology, to a point where Vladimir Putin will not be able to continue to pursue this kind of aggression against other countries. It's obvious that this is a very long-term strategy now and not something they think is going to turn around the situation on the ground anytime soon.
Well, you highlight the long-term nature of what the president was saying. I'm sure there are viewers with us now who are thinking, but hold on, there's a very short-term and immediate problem, which is that Russian troops are pouring into Ukraine, and what's America going to do about that?
Absolutely, and America has made very clear what it's not going to do about that, and that is not to use any of the thousands of troops they have sent to Poland, Romania and Baltic states to engage in Ukraine or come into conflict with any Russian forces. That is not something that's on the table. We heard President Biden there saying very clearly that if any NATO member is attacked, that will trigger Article 5, which says that an attack on one member state is an attack on all. And in those circumstances, the US obviously would engage, but there is no plan for them to get militarily involved in this conflict at the moment. So we hear these sanctions being announced today. There are obviously others still in reserve, including personal sanctions against Putin himself that could be brought to bear if the situation worsens. But beyond these kind of economic measures, it's not clear that the US has any plans that they think could halt this attack on Ukraine.
For the moment, thank you very much indeed. There's our North America editor, Sarah Smith. Now, Ukraine is saying it's trying to fight off a full-scale invasion by these Russian forces. Vladimir Putin launched this assault on Ukraine in the early hours of the morning. The number of overall casualties is unclear, but dozens of military personnel and civilians are reported to have already been killed. First of all, let's hear from the Ukrainian president.
Putin started a war against Ukraine, against the whole democratic world. He wants to destroy my country. He wants to destroy our country, everything we have built, everything we live for.
While announcing the invasion, Vladimir Putin said this.
Whoever tries to interfere with us or threaten our country should know that Russia's response will be immediate and lead to such consequences that have never been experienced in history.
Well, the land assault was accompanied by airstrikes that began this morning after President Putin had ordered the attack. This map shows the reported missile strikes and explosions. They've happened close to 8 major cities in Ukraine, including the capital, Kiev. Russia says it's destroyed more than 70 military targets, including 11 air missiles, striking Ivano-Frankivsk International Airport in western Ukraine. Those pictures weren't filmed by the BBC, but we have verified them. Then this is at a military airport in the northeast city of Chuhuiv in the early hours of the morning. Then this is Hostomel Airport. This is close to Kiev. This is an air assault operation, we understand. Ukraine said Russian helicopters have been dropping paratroopers there.